That Thanksgiving night, my mother-in-law looked straight at me across a table laden with turkey and wine and said, "Useless." The room laughed awkwardly. My husband stayed silent. 12 hours later, I walked through the cold stone lobby of a mountain resort with a briefcase in my hand and a notary waiting. When my pen touched paper, everyone finally understood the thing they thought I didn't have power I'd owned all along. My name is Natalie Pierce, and I've learned that the most dangerous moments in a family come wrapped in gravy and good china. The Barrett house in Maple Glen glowed like something from an architectural magazine that November evening open kitchen, pendant lights casting honey warmth over marble counters, the long walnut table set for 8. I'd brought my contribution in a Williams-Sonoma bag mashed potatoes from that gourmet place downtown. Sylvia Barrett's eyes had narrowed when she saw the container. "Store-bought," she'd murmured to her daughter Brielle, loud enough for me to hear. "Some of us make an effort." I'd been married to Ethan for 4 years, together for 6, long enough to know the rhythm of these dinners, the way Sylvia orchestrated every conversation like a conductor with an invisible baton. She carved the turkey with surgical precision while interrogating each of us about our contributions, not to dinner, but to the Barrett family empire. "Ethan closed the Riverside Commons project last month," Sylvia announced, though we all knew this already. $42 million in total development costs, Granite and Vale's biggest project this year. My husband straightened in his chair, accepting the praise like communion wine. His father Clive raised his bourbon in approval. Brielle documented everything for her 30,000 Instagram followers, angling her phone to catch the gleam of silverware. Then Sylvia turned to me. "And Natalie, how's your marketing thing?" "Brand strategy," I corrected quietly. "North Shore Creative just landed the Millennium Hotels account." She passed the cranberry sauce without looking at me. "What's your salary these days if you don't mind my asking?" I did mind, but Ethan's hand found my knee under the table not in support, but in warning. "Play nice." $78,000, I said. Brielle choked on her wine. That's what my friend makes doing social media for her dog's account." "It's honest work," I said. "Honest. Maybe." Sylvia set down her fork with deliberate precision. "But is it substantial? Real, you don't build anything, own anything. You just make advertisements. Pretty pictures and slogans." She looked around the table as if gathering witnesses. "Even your mashed potatoes are store-bought. How do I put this kindly? You're useless to this family's actual growth." The word hung in the air like a blade. Useless. Ethan's hand tightened on my knee. Still not in support in agreement with his mother's assessment. "Mom," he said weakly. I'm being practical," Sylvia continued. "We have an opportunity here. A family opportunity. The Juniper Ridge Resort in Colorado needs restructuring, and we need someone with clean credit to help with some paperwork. Just a signature. A formality." Her eyes locked onto mine. "Even someone useless can sign their name. Can't they?" My phone buzzed against my thigh. I glanced down at the email notification from High Timber Capital Distressed Debt Package Acquisition Confirmed. Awaiting your instructions. "I'll think about it," I said, cutting into my turkey with steady hands. "Think about it," Clive finally spoke, his voice carrying 40 years of boardroom authority. "This is family, Natalie. We don't think, we act, together." Brielle's camera was still rolling, catching what she probably thought was just another family dinner. She had no idea she was documenting the beginning of the end. "The resort's bleeding money," I said casually. I saw the public filings. Occupancy down 30%. 3 liens filed in the past year. Why would you want my signature on that? Sylvia's smile turned arctic. "Because unlike you, we understand how real wealth works. Sometimes you have to leverage certain positions to protect larger assets. But you wouldn't understand that, would you? You've never built anything worth protecting." I took a sip of wine, let it sit on my tongue while I counted to 5. In my pocket, My phone buzzed again. Another email. This one from Laura Whitcomb. My attorney UCC filing shows convertible note structure. Very interesting. Call me. You're right, I said finally. I don't understand real wealth. I looked Sylvia directly in the eye. But I'm learning. The rest of dinner passed in careful conversation about safer topics: Brielle's follower count, Clive's golf handicap, the first snow predicted for next week. But I felt Sylvia watching me, calculating, trying to figure out if my compliance was weakness or something else. As we cleared plates, she cornered me by the sink. We'll need your answer by end of the week. The papers are already drawn up. I smiled, drying my hands on her monogrammed towel. If I'm so useless, why do you need me? Her mask slipped for just a second, and I saw something desperate underneath. Then it was gone, replaced by her usual controlled smile. Even broken tools have their purposes. Dear. That night, driving back to the city while Ethan dozed in the passenger seat, I thought about my mother, how she'd spent 30 years cleaning motel rooms, coming home with her hands cracked from bleach, still finding energy to help me with homework. How the wealthy guests would leave pennies as tips. Their own special way of saying useless. My phone lit up the dashboard with another email. High Timber Capital again. Assignment terms favorable. 70 cents on the dollar for the full package. Your move. I glanced at Ethan sleeping beside me, his face soft and unguarded. He looked so much like his mother in profile, same sharp jaw, same assumption that the world would always bend to his will. If I'm useless, I whispered to the darkness beyond the windshield. Let's see what my useless signature is worth. The argument started before we even reached Lakeshore Drive. She's just being practical, Ethan said, suddenly awake and defensive. The family needs this. We need this. I kept my eyes on the taillights ahead, red dots blurring in the light rain. When did your mother's bad investment become our problem? It's not a bad investment. It's a temporary cash flow issue. He was using his project manager voice, the one that made contractors fall in line. Look, all you have to do is sign as a guarantor. It's just paperwork. You won't actually have to pay anything. Unless they default. They won't default. My family doesn't default. I wanted to laugh. Instead, I pulled into our building's garage in silence. The washing machine was already running when we got upstairs. I'd started it before we left, knowing I'd need the white noise later. Our apartment felt smaller after being in his parents' house, but it was mine too. My name on the lease. My credit on the line. Ethan poured himself scotch while I opened my laptop at the kitchen counter. The screen filled with windows I'd bookmarked earlier. UCC filings, county records, corporate registrations. The Juniper Ridge Resort appeared in document after document, each one painting a clearer picture of desperation. What are you doing? Ethan stood behind me, close enough that I could smell the bourbon on his breath. Research. On my family. On a multi-million-dollar liability you want me to sign for. He slammed his glass down, scotch sloshing onto my keyboard. This is exactly what Mom means. You don't understand how families like ours operate. Sometimes you have to take risks for the greater good. Families like yours. I wiped the spill with careful strokes. You mean families that use their son's wife as collateral? My phone buzzed with a text in the family group chat. Brielle had posted her Thanksgiving video with the caption, "So grateful for family traditions." Blessed Tark Barrett. Thanksgiving below it. Sylvia had already commented, "Wonderful evening." Looking forward to everyone coming together for our Colorado opportunity. Everyone. The emphasis wasn't subtle. I scrolled through my banking apps, checking balances. $43,000 in savings every bonus, every freelance project, every skipped lunch saved over 8 years. My mother had taught me to keep money that was only mine. Just in case. She'd never said in case of what. Nat. Ethan's voice softened, his hands finding my shoulders. I know Mom can be intense, but this is how we build something bigger than ourselves. This is how we create generational wealth. Your generation, not mine. His hands dropped. What's that supposed to mean? I turned to face him. When have I ever been included in the Barrett family decisions? I'm the audience. Ethan, the witness, the signature when you need clean credit. But I'm never the family. You're being dramatic. I pulled up another document on my screen, an email from Aspen Range Bank dated 3 weeks ago. Did you know your parents took out a bridge loan at 14% interest? Did you know they're 60 days from default? His face went pale. How did you? Public records. Corporate transparency filings. The things your mother thinks I'm too useless to understand. I clicked through to another tab. High Timber Capital is offering to buy the debt at 70 cents on the dollar. Do you know what that means? That's vulture fund bullshit. Mom would never. Your mom is out of options. That's why she needs my signature. Fresh credit to buy time. I pulled up the assignment terms Lara had sent. But here's what your mother doesn't know. The bridge loan has a conversion clause. If the borrower fails to provide additional capital by the maturity date, the note holder can convert to equity. Controlling equity. Ethan stared at the screen like it was written in a foreign language. His family had money, but they'd never had to understand it the way people like me did, people who counted every dollar, read every line of fine print. You're not seriously thinking. I'm thinking your mother called me useless. I closed the laptop. I'm thinking about what that word is worth. He grabbed his keys from the counter. I need air. It's 11:45 at night. I'll be at Brad's. His college roommate, the safe harbor whenever we fought. Maybe when I get back, you'll remember what loyalty means. The door slammed behind him. The washing machine hummed its spin cycle. I sat alone in our kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of the Barretts' crumbling empire, and made my decision. I called Lara Whitcomb. She answered on the second ring, despite the late hour. Natalie, I was wondering when you'd call. Can it be done? I asked. Can I buy the debt through High Timber without the Barretts knowing? With the right structure? Yes. Shell company. Passive investment vehicle. The works. But Natalie, this will end your marriage. I thought about Ethan choosing his mother over me, even now. Thought about 4 years of family dinners where I was treated like the help with a marriage certificate. It ended tonight, I said. I just need to make it count. I'll draw up the papers. We'll need to move fast. The note matures in 2 weeks. 2 weeks to flip the script. 2 weeks to show the Barretts what useless really looked like. I opened a new spreadsheet and began calculating exactly how much my signature was worth. The team came together faster than I expected. Lara Whitcomb operated from a glass office in the Loop, 30 floors up with a view of the frozen river. She'd left Big Law 3 years ago to work solo, representing interesting situations, as she called them. This qualified. The structure is elegant, she said, sliding documents across her conference table. High Timber Capital serves as the acquisition vehicle. They purchased the distressed debt package from Aspen Range Bank. Behind them, we create Alder & Slate Hospitality LLC, that's your entity. You're the sole member, hidden behind 2 layers of corporate veiling. Marcus Hale joined us by video from Denver. He'd spent 15 years evaluating hotel properties for Marriott before going independent. His assessment was brutal. Juniper Ridge is hemorrhaging cash, he said, sharing his screen. Occupancy at 32%. Deferred maintenance approaching $4 million. The Barretts tried to run it like a family cottage instead of a business. But the bones are good. Location is prime. With proper management and about $2 million in strategic improvements, it could be worth $40 million within 3 years. I don't have $2 million, I said. You don't need it, Lara interjected. The non-recourse loan from High Timber covers the debt purchase and initial operating capital. The resort itself is the collateral. If it fails, you walk away clean. If it succeeds, I own a $40 million asset for the price of a signature. Riley Kay sat in the corner, silent. She was the best floating notary in Chicago, known for discretion and availability at odd hours. She'd witnessed the killing blow when the time came. Tell me about the conversion clause, I said. Lara pulled up the original loan documents. It's buried in Schedule K. Page 47. Sylvia Barrett signed it herself. probably without reading that far. If the borrower fails to inject 20% additional capital by the maturity date, December 15th at 11:59 p.m., the note holder has the option to convert the debt to 65% equity ownership. 65% gives me control. Complete control. The Barretts become minority shareholders in their own resort. I thought about Sylvia's desperation at Thanksgiving, the way she'd cornered me by the sink. She knew the deadline was coming. She just didn't know the trap she'd already set for herself. "What about Ethan?" Marcus asked. "He's going to figure this out." "No," I said. "He won't." Ethan sees what his mother tells him to see. It had been 3 days since our fight. He'd come home the next morning, apologized in that surface way that meant he was sorry I was upset, not sorry for what happened. We moved around each other like polite strangers, him assuming I was cooling off, me building a financial weapon in plain sight. "The family meeting is set for December 14th, I told the team. "They'll bring me to the resort to sign the guarantor papers. They think they're saving themselves with hours to spare. And instead, I'll have Riley there with the conversion documents. By the time they realize what's happening, it'll be too late." Lara leaned back in her chair. "You know they'll fight this. They'll claim fraud, coercion, undue influence. With what evidence every document is filed properly, every signature freely given. I'm using their own contract against them." "This is cold," Marcus said, but he was smiling. "Brilliant, but cold." Cold. Like the mountain resort where the Barretts had built their kingdom. Like Sylvia's voice when she called me useless. "There's one more thing," I said. "I want Marcus on site the day after conversion. Full audit, new management team ready to deploy. I want the Barretts to watch professionals fix what they broke." "That's aggressive." "That's the point." My phone buzzed with a text from Sylvia family meeting confirmed for 12:14 at Juniper Ridge. "Bring your ID for the notary. Don't disappoint us." "Natalie." I showed it to Lara. "She's so sure I'll comply." "Why wouldn't you? You're the dutiful daughter-in-law, store-bought mashed potatoes and a steady salary, useless for anything more complex." "Exactly." I signed the retainer agreements, my signature sharp and certain. Let her think that right until the moment I take everything. Riley finally spoke. "You sure you want to do this? Once those papers are signed, there's no going back." I thought about my mother, cracked hands and penny tips. Thought about 4 years of Barrett family dinners, being treated like an outsider with a marriage certificate. Thought about Ethan choosing his mother's cruelty over his wife's dignity. "I've never been more sure of anything," I said. Lara's assistant knocked, bringing coffee and fresh documents from High Timber. The assignment letter was beautiful in its simplicity, 1 page that would transfer millions in debt and transform it into my sword. "Initial funding," Lara asked. $43,000 from savings, $17,000 from my 401k loan, $15,000 from a personal line of credit I opened last week. I'd also sold my grandmother's ring, the one Ethan didn't know about, but I kept that detail to myself. High Timber provides the rest through the non-recourse structure. $75,000 to take down a resort worth $40 million. Marcus whistled. "The leverage is insane." "The Barretts taught me about leverage," I said. "They just never expected me to learn the lesson." We spent the next 3 hours reviewing every detail, every contingency. By the time I left Lara's office, the December sun was already setting at 4:30 p.m., casting Chicago in that particular winter gloom that makes everything feel like an ending. Ethan was home when I arrived, sitting in the dark living room with his laptop. "Working late?" I asked. "Mom wants to review the guarantor documents with us. Video call at 8. "Of course she does." He looked up at me then, really looked at me for the first time in days. "You're really going to do this sign for the family?" I thought about the papers in my bag, the team on standby, the countdown to December 14th. "Yes," I said. "I'm going to sign exactly what I need to sign." He smiled, relieved. "I knew you'd come around. Mom will be pleased." I smiled back, thinking of the conversion clause hidden on page 47. I'm sure she will be. The drive to Colorado took 12 hours. Ethan insisted we make it a road trip. Like old times. Though we'd never actually taken a road trip together, his mother had summoned the entire family to Juniper Ridge for the weekend of December 14th, a celebration of family unity. She called it. Mom's already there, Ethan said as we crossed into Colorado, mountains rising like teeth against the pale sky. She's been meeting with the resort managers all week. Damage control, strategic planning. He kept his eyes on the road. She's got 3 potential investors coming to tour the property on Sunday. Sunday would be too late, but I kept that to myself. My phone buzzed with a text from Brielle. Just posted our arrival story. Family first. Mountain weekend, Jara Barrett strong below it. A video of the resort exterior, its stone and timber facade majestic against fresh snow. The parking lot was nearly empty. Looks quiet for peak season, I observed. It's early December. Things pick up closer to Christmas. Another lie he needed to believe. Marcus had sent me the real numbers that morning. 17% occupancy. 2 corporate events canceled. The restaurant operating at a loss. The Barretts were captaining the Titanic and arguing about deck chair arrangements. We pulled up to the valet station at 3:15 p.m. No valet. Ethan had to park himself, muttering about staff reliability. I pulled my coat tighter against the mountain wind and thought about all the service workers the Barretts had probably stiffed over the years. The lobby still held its rustic grandeur soaring beams, a massive stone fireplace, antler chandeliers that probably cost more than my annual salary. But I noticed the worn spots in the carpet, the dust on the high fixtures, the way the front desk computer system looked a decade old. Natalie. Sylvia emerged from the office behind reception like a queen greeting reluctant subjects. So glad you could make it. She air-kissed my cheeks, her perfume aggressive and floral. Behind her stood their lawyer, a thin man named Garrett Holbrook who specialized in family wealth preservation. Garrett's prepared all the paperwork, she said, steering me toward the conference room. We can sign tomorrow morning. Get this unpleasant business finished. Tomorrow's Saturday, I said. Garrett was kind enough to arrange a notary. She smiled tightly. We're very thorough. I'll need to review everything first. Of course, though I'm sure you'll find it's all standard language. Nothing someone like you needs to worry about. Someone like me, useless, store-bought, insignificant. I brought my own advisor, I said casually. She'll want to review as well. Sylvia's smile flickered. That's not necessary. It's required. For documents of this size, my advisor insists on personal review. This is family business, Natalie. Which is why I want to make sure I understand what I'm signing for family. Ethan stepped between us. Mom, it's fine. Let Natalie do her due diligence. We have until tomorrow. Actually, they had until tomorrow at 11:59 p.m., but precision wasn't the Barrett's strong suit. Clive appeared with bourbon for everyone except me. I got white wine. Unasked. The drink of wives and witnesses. We gathered in the great room, its windows framing the ski slopes where a lone snowmaker tried to cover bare patches. To family. Clive raised his glass. And to those who step up when family needs them. Everyone drank. The wine tasted like pennies. Dinner was elaborate, the kitchen staff clearly told to impress. Elk tenderloin, roasted vegetables, wine pairings with each course. Sylvia held court, describing her vision for the resort's future, a wellness center, upgraded suites, maybe even a helicopter pad. Once we get through this rough patch, she said, looking directly at me, we'll transform this place. You'll see. Natalie, your signature is an investment in something magnificent. My signature, I repeated. Well, yes, the guarantor agreement. It's just a formality, really. Banks love their paperwork. Brielle filmed everything, narrating in her influencer voice. You guys, this elk is literally life-changing, and can we talk about this view? The view was spectacular. I'd give them that. Miles of mountains. Alpenglow painting the peaks rose and gold. It would make a beautiful backdrop for tomorrow's devastation. After dinner, Garrett presented the documents in the conference room. 20 pages of dense legal text, the guarantor agreement that would make me personally liable for the Barretts' mistakes. Sign here, here, and here, he said, marking yellow tabs. We'll execute tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll need copies to review tonight. That's highly irregular. Then I won't sign. Sylvia's hand clenched her wine glass. Give her the copies. Garrett? I took the stack of papers to my room. They'd given us the smallest suite, naturally, and spread them on the bed. Then I pulled out my laptop and connected with Lara on a secure video call. They're getting desperate, she said after I showed her their documents. This guarantor agreement is predatory. They're trying to shield themselves while putting everything on you. Good thing I won't be signing it. High Timber confirmed the assignment went through an hour ago. The debt is yours. Natalie, the conversion option is active. I looked out my window at the lights of the resort, at the Barretts' crumbling kingdom spread below. And Riley. She'll be there at 9:45, sharp. Park entrance, not the lobby. Less chance of interference. A knock at my door interrupted us. I closed the laptop and opened to find Ethan with a bottle of champagne. Thought we could celebrate early, he said. You're saving us. Nat, I want you to know how much this means. Saving you, I repeated, taking the champagne. Is that what I'm doing? You're proving Mom wrong, showing her you're part of this family. I thought about telling him then, thought about showing mercy. But then I remembered Thanksgiving, remembered him sitting silent while his mother called me useless. Let's save the celebration for tomorrow, I said. After everything's signed? He kissed my forehead, mistaking my words for agreement. Tomorrow, then. Mom's already planning a toast. After he left, I texted Lara. They're planning a toast. Her response was immediate. Let them. It'll make the reversal even better. I poured the champagne down the sink and watched it foam and disappear, like the Barretts' assumptions about tomorrow, like their certainty that someone useless couldn't possibly be dangerous. The conference room had been staged like a theater for the killing blow. Sylvia had arranged everything perfectly: fresh flowers, coffee service, the morning light streaming through windows to illuminate the signing table. She'd even positioned Brielle for optimal filming angles. What she didn't know was that I'd been up since 5 a.m. meeting Riley K. in the parking lot to review our own documents. Let's begin, Sylvia announced at 10 a.m. sharp. Garrett at her right hand with the guarantor agreements. Natalie, we're so pleased you've chosen to support the family. I set my briefcase on the table, the same one from my mother's old job, worn leather that had carried cleaning supplies and now carried corporate destruction. Before we sign anything, I have some questions. Sylvia's jaw tightened. Questions Garrett has explained everything. Not to my satisfaction. I pulled out a folder, my own compilation of public records. According to county filings, Juniper Ridge has 3 outstanding liens totaling $4.7 million. The operating reports show negative cash flow for 18 consecutive months. The bridge loan from Aspen Range Bank carries a 14% interest rate with a balloon payment due. I checked my watch in exactly 13 hours and 59 minutes. The room went silent. Clive's bourbon hand trembled slightly. How did you? Garrett started. Public records. Amazing what you can find when you're not too useless to look. I slid the first document across the table. But here's what's really interesting. Schedule K of your loan agreement, page 47, the conversion clause. Sylvia snatched the paper, her eyes scanning frantically. I watched the moment she found it, her face draining of color like snow melting in reverse. This is irrelevant, she said quickly. Once you sign the guarantor agreement, we'll have the capital injection needed to— No. I opened my briefcase wider, revealing the stack of documents inside. You won't? Excuse me, I'm not signing your guarantor agreement. Sylvia, I'm here to execute something else entirely. Lara Whitcomb entered the room on cue, her presence immediately shifting the power dynamic. She wasn't some small-town lawyer impressed by Barrett money. She was a shark who'd swum in bigger pools. "Good morning," Laura said pleasantly. "I'm here representing Alder and Slate Hospitality, LLC. "Who the hell is that?" Clive demanded. "The new owner of your debt," I said. The words hung in the air like an avalanche about to break. Ethan stood up so fast his chair tipped over. "Nat, what are you talking about?" I pulled out the notice of assignment, the beautiful single page that changed everything. 3 days ago, High Timber Capital purchased your bridge loan from Aspen Range Bank at 70 cents on the dollar. Yesterday, they assigned that debt to Alder and Slate Hospitality, LLC. I paused, meeting Sylvia's horrified gaze. "I'm the sole member of Alder and Slate." "That's impossible," Garrett spluttered. "We would have been notified." "You were?" Laura produced the certified mail receipt. "Delivered to your registered agent 2 days ago. Perhaps you should check with them more often." Sylvia stood slowly, her composure cracking like ice under weight. "You bought our debt. With what money you make $78,000 a year? You buy store-bought mashed potatoes." "I leveraged everything I had," I said simply. "My savings, my credit, my future. The same way you wanted me to leverage it for you. Except I did it for myself." "This is fraud," Clive said. "Conspiracy. We'll sue." "On what grounds?" Laura interrupted. "My client purchased distressed debt through legal channels. Your loan documents which you signed. Mrs. Barrett clearly state that the note can be sold without borrower consent." I pulled out the next document. "And now, with 13 hours until your balloon payment is due, you have 2 choices. Either you come up with 20% additional capital, roughly $3 million, or the conversion clause activates." "We can get the money," Sylvia said desperately. "The investors tomorrow. Won't come through in time, and you know it." I stood, matching her height in my heels. "You've been trying for weeks, calling in favors, begging for extensions. That's why you needed my signature so badly. The useless daughter-in-law with clean credit." Brielle had stopped filming, her phone hanging limp in her hand. The influencer facade cracked, revealing a 28-year-old woman watching her family empire crumble. "Mom," she whispered. "Is this true?" Sylvia ignored her, focusing on me with pure venom. "You planned this. From Thanksgiving. From the moment you called me useless." I opened the conversion documents, each page perfectly prepared. 65% equity ownership transfers to Alder and Slate upon default. That happens at 11:59 p.m. tonight without the capital injection. "This is our family's resort," Ethan said, his voice breaking. "My grandfather built this place, and your mother destroyed it with ego and mismanagement." I turned to him, letting him see the steel I'd hidden for 4 years. "You sat there at Thanksgiving while she humiliated me. You chose her cruelty over my dignity. Now you can watch her lose everything to someone so useless." Marcus Hale entered then, tablet in hand, ready to begin his audit the moment ownership transferred. "Mrs. Pierce, I've assembled the transition team. We can begin the operational review at midnight." "Mrs. Pierce." Ethan laughed bitterly. "Her name is Barrett." "Not professionally," I said. "I never changed it legally." "Another thing you never bothered to ask about." The room erupted. Clive threatening lawsuits, Garrett frantically searching for loopholes, Brielle crying about her wedding plans that assumed resort income. But Sylvia just stared at me, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. "Please," she said quietly, "this will ruin us." "No," I corrected. "It will make you minority shareholders in a property I'll run professionally. You'll actually make money once competent management takes over. Consider it a gift from someone useless." Riley Kay entered with her notary seal, ready to witness either their surrender or their default. The December sun climbed higher, marking time toward the deadline. "You have 13 hours to find $3 million, I said, packing my briefcase. "Or you can sign the conversion documents now and make this clean. Your choice." I left them in their beautiful conference room, surrounded by the paperwork of their own destruction. In the lobby, I texted my mother, Remember when you said to always keep something that's just mine? I kept everything. Her response was immediate. That's my girl. The stone lobby became our battleground at 11:22 p.m. They'd spent the entire day scrambling Sylvia on the phone with every contact in her depleted network. Clive trying to leverage properties already mortgaged to the hilt. Garrett searching for any legal technicality to stop the conversion. They'd failed on all fronts. Now we faced each other across two tables Sylvia had arranged like opposing trenches. On her side, the guarantor agreements she still hoped I'd sign, her notary sitting rigid as a mannequin. On mine, the resort ownership papers, as I'd come to think of them, with Riley Kay, calm and professional beside me. There's still time, Sylvia said, her voice hoarse from 13 hours of desperate phone calls. Sign the guarantor agreement. We'll get the capital by Monday. The deadline is 11:59 tonight, I said, checking my phone. 37 minutes. The lobby was nearly empty. Just us and the night manager pretending not to watch the family drama unfolding near the dormant fireplace. Snow fell steadily outside, muffling the world beyond the windows. Ethan stood behind his mother, but his eyes kept drifting to me. He'd tried to corner me twice during the day, alternating between anger and pleading. Now he just looked hollowed out, like someone had scooped out his certainty and left the shell. This is extortion, Clive said, though his lawyer had already told him it wasn't. This is business. I placed the conversion documents on my table. The same business you've conducted for years, just with someone else holding the leverage. Laura appeared on my laptop screen via video call, ready to witness remotely. Mrs. Pierce, can you confirm you're prepared to execute the conversion upon default? I confirm. This is being recorded for legal documentation. Sylvia's carefully maintained composure finally shattered. You vindictive little careful. I interrupted. You're about to become my minority partner. We should maintain professional courtesy. She actually lunged forward, but Garrett caught her arm. The Barrett family matriarch, reduced to near violence in her own resort's lobby. Brielle filmed it all with the detached fascination of someone watching their childhood home burn down. 20 minutes, I announced. Either produce $3 million or sign the conversion documents acknowledging the ownership transfer. We won't sign anything, Clive declared. Then the conversion happens automatically at midnight, but it's messier. Forced transfer, potential litigation, months of uncertainty. Or, I gestured to my table. You sign now, we execute a clean transfer, and you retain 35% ownership in a resort that will actually start making money under professional management. Marcus entered from the office, having spent the day reviewing operations. Mrs. Pierce, I've identified immediate cost savings of $400,000 annually just in vendor contract renegotiations. The previous management has been significantly overpaying for basic services. The previous management. Sylvia's face went purple. 11:45, Riley announced softly. Something shifted in the air. The fight went out of Sylvia's shoulders. She looked at her husband, her son, her daughter, then finally at me. Why? She asked. Was it really just because I called you useless? I thought about lying, about pretending this was purely business. But she deserved the truth in her defeat. You tried to make me small, I said. Every dinner, every family gathering, every backhanded comment about my job, my background, my contributions. You wanted me to feel worthless, so I'd be grateful for whatever scraps of approval you threw my way. So I'd sign whatever you put in front of me without questioning it. I stood, walked to her table, looked down at the woman who'd tried to diminish me. But I was never useless. I was observant, patient, underestimated. The same qualities you mocked were the ones that let me see the opportunity you missed in your own contracts. 11:50, Riley called. Sylvia picked up the pen at her table, the expensive Mont Blanc she'd given me last Christmas with the barbed comment about signing important things someday. Her hand shook as she brought it to the conversion documents I'd placed before her. If I sign, she said, you win. I won the moment you underestimated me. She signed. The sound of pen on paper was like thunder in the quiet lobby. Clive signed next, then Garrett as witness. Each signature transferred more control to me, to Alder and Slate, to the future where the Barretts were minority stakeholders in their own legacy. Riley notarized each document with methodical precision, the blue seal pressed into paper with a satisfying thump. Legal, binding, irreversible. 11:58, she announced. I signed last, my name flowing smooth and certain across the final page. Natalie Pierce, Managing Member, Alder and Slate Hospitality LLC, owner of 65% of Juniper Ridge Resort. 11:59. The grandfather clock in the corner began to chime midnight. 12 strikes marking the end of the Barrett family's control and the beginning of mine. Congratulations, Laura said from the screen. The transfer is complete. I gathered the executed documents, placed them carefully in my briefcase, my mother's old briefcase that had carried so many humble things and now carried an empire. Marcus, please begin the transition protocol. I want all resort credit cards frozen, new signature authorities on all accounts, and a complete audit started at 8 a.m. Already prepared, he confirmed. Ethan finally spoke. Where are you going to stay tonight? You can't seriously think you're staying in our suite. Your suite is now a minority stakeholder guest room. I pulled out a new key card. I'll be in the owner's penthouse, the one your mother has been using as storage because she thought it was too much trouble to maintain. Sylvia stood slowly, aged 10 years and 10 minutes. This isn't over. Yes, I said simply. It is. I walked to the elevator, my heels clicking on the stone floor with new authority. Behind me, the Barretts stood frozen like the family portrait they'd never again take in front of their resort. As the elevator doors closed, I caught my reflection in the polished gold surface. I didn't look useless at all. I looked like an owner. By 8 a.m., the resort was mine in every way that mattered. Marcus had worked through the night with his team, changing passwords, freezing accounts, securing files. The Barretts discovered their keycards no longer accessed the executive offices when they arrived for what Sylvia probably imagined would be a negotiation. This is our family business, Ethan shouted through the locked office door. I corrected from inside, reviewing vendor contracts that hadn't been competitively bid in a decade. Now it's my business with minority stakeholder input, which you're welcome to provide at the quarterly meetings. The transformation was surgical. I'd hired a forensic accountant who found $40,000 monthly in duplicate billing. The restaurant manager Sylvia's cousin had been skimming inventory for years. The spa contract went to his brother-in-law at twice market rate. Your mother built a network of small corruptions, Marcus told me as we toured the property. Not illegal, just inefficient. Nepotism disguised as loyalty. By noon, I'd terminated 6 contracts and put 7 more under review. Each vendor who called got the same message: competitive rebidding starts Monday, best prices only, no exceptions for family friends. The staff watched with a mixture of fear and fascination. They'd grown used to Barrett chaos, late paychecks, arbitrary rules, Sylvia's mood swings determining their schedules. I called an all-hands meeting in the main dining room. Everyone keeps their jobs, I announced. But things change starting now. Payroll will never be late. Schedules will be posted 2 weeks in advance. Performance matters more than who you know. The relief was palpable. The head of housekeeping actually cried. Ethan confronted me in the lobby that afternoon, his anger replaced by something closer to grief. You're destroying everything my family built? I'm saving what your family destroyed. I showed him the real numbers on my tablet. At the current burn rate, you had maybe 3 months before complete insolvency. I'm giving you 35% of something valuable instead of 100% of nothing. This was never about the resort, was it? This was about us. About me. I looked at the man I'd once thought I'd spend my life with. He seemed smaller now, diminished not by what I'd taken but by what he'd revealed, that he'd always choose his mother's approval over his wife's dignity. The saddest part, I said, is that you still don't understand. You think this is revenge. It's not. It's self-respect. Sylvia tried one last power play that evening. She'd called a meeting with the major vendors, telling them the ownership change was temporary, that the Barretts would regain control soon. I let her gather them in the conference room, let her make her speech about family legacy and tradition. Then I entered with the audit results. Mr. Davidson, I addressed the linen supplier. You've been charging 30% above market rate for 5 years. Mr. Huang, your food supply contract includes delivery fees already covered in the base price. Ms. Rodriguez, the landscaping agreement bills for services in winter that couldn't possibly be performed under 6 feet of snow. The room went silent. Everyone will be paid what they're owed for past services. I continued. Future contracts will be negotiated based on actual value delivered. Anyone who doesn't want to work under those terms is free to leave. Davidson started to protest, looked at Sylvia for support, found none. She couldn't even meet his eyes. One by one, they agreed to renegotiate. They needed the resort's business, and they knew I'd follow through on finding new suppliers if they didn't comply. After they left, Sylvia and I were alone in the conference room. "You've thought of everything," she said quietly. "I learned from watching you. All those family dinners where you dissect people's weaknesses, plan your leverage. I was taking notes. I created my own destroyer. No, you revealed your own vulnerabilities. The assumption that someone you deemed worthless couldn't be dangerous. The certainty that your name meant more than competence. The belief that cruelty without consequences was just good business." She stood to leave, then paused at the door. "The investors were never coming tomorrow. Were they? You knew that somehow." "I knew you'd already called everyone worth calling. That's why you needed me so desperately. I was your last option, and you still couldn't resist insulting me in the process. That Thanksgiving dinner was the best thing that ever happened to me. It clarified everything." She left without another word. From the window, I watched the Barretts pack their Range Rover. Clive loaded suitcases with mechanical precision. Brielle had stopped filming everything, her influencer persona crushed under the weight of real consequences. Ethan looked back at the resort one last time, and for a moment our eyes met through the glass. He'd texted me earlier, "I'm filing for divorce." I'd responded, "I already did. Papers will be served Monday." Now he got in the car and they drove away, taillights disappearing into the winter dusk. Their family name was still on the resort. I wasn't petty enough to change that immediately, but everything else was mine. Marcus found me still standing at the window. "The transition team from Trail and Hearth Outfitters arrives tomorrow. We'll have the winter experience packages ready to launch by Christmas?" "Good." I picked up the pen from the desk the Mont Blanc Sylvia had given me to sign important things. Today, I'd used it to sign payroll authorizations, ensuring every employee would get their Christmas bonus on time. "You know they'll probably try to sabotage the transition," Marcus warned. "Spread rumors, badmouth you to anyone who'll listen. Let them. Success is the best response." I walked through my resort checking on the dinner service, greeting guests, learning the names of staff who'd been invisible to the Barretts for years. In the kitchen, the chef showed me his real menu ideas, the ones Sylvia had rejected as too adventurous. "Make them," I said. "Let's give people a reason to come here besides the view." The industrious hum of a business finding its potential filled the spaces where Barrett dysfunction had festered. It was 9:47 p.m. when I finally returned to the penthouse suite, the one Sylvia had deemed too much trouble. I'd had it cleaned and restored during the day. The views were spectacular, 3 walls of windows showing the mountains under stars. This was what the Barretts had thought they owned: beauty, majesty, permanence. But they'd only owned the deed, the real ownership, the kind that comes from competence, vision, and respect for the people who make a business run, that had always been available to anyone willing to earn it, even someone useless like me. The snow fell heavier now, 3 days after the takeover, covering the tracks of the Barretts' departure. I stood on the resort's stone terrace, coffee steaming in the morning air, when Sylvia appeared one last time. She'd driven up alone. her Range Rover looking small against the mountain backdrop. "I need to collect some personal items," she said, no longer the commanding matriarch, just a tired woman in her 60s who'd lost a game she didn't know she was playing. "Of course, Marcus will escort you." She started toward the entrance, then stopped. "Can we talk? Just for a moment?" We faced each other on the terrace, snow catching in her silver hair. The woman who'd called me useless at Thanksgiving dinner now stood on property I controlled. "You destroyed our family," she said. "No, I revealed what was already broken." I set down my coffee, choosing my words carefully. "You built a hierarchy where cruelty flowed downward and money flowed up. You taught your children that power meant the right to diminish others. That's not a family, it's a corporation with shared DNA. And what you've built is better. Look around." I gestured to the lobby, where staff members actually smiled as they worked. "I've been here 72 hours. Occupancy is up 12% from the online promotions alone. The restaurant is booked solid after we announced the new menu. Your employees' former employees are actually excited to come to work. Because you pay them more. Because I treat them like humans instead of servants." She was quiet for a long moment, watching the snow fall. "That Thanksgiving dinner, if I hadn't said what I said, you'd have found another way to make me feel small. It's who you are, Sylvia. Or who you were when you had the power to be. I have lawyers who've already told you the conversion was legal, that fighting it would cost more than your 35% is worth, that your best option is to accept the quarterly dividends from a professionally managed property." Her shoulders sagged. "Ethan blames me. Ethan made his choices. He could have defended me, could have stood up to you years ago. Instead, he waited for someone else to solve his problems, then got angry when that solution didn't favor him. You loved him once. I loved who I thought he was. But when you showed me who he really was, a man who'd watch his wife be humiliated rather than risk his mother's disapproval, you did me a favor." Marcus appeared in the doorway, keys in hand, ready to supervise her final visit to the executive offices. As she turned to go, I pulled something from my pocket. "Here," I said, handing her the Mont Blanc pen. "You gave this to me last Christmas. Said I might sign something important with it someday." She stared at the pen like it was a snake. "I did sign something important," I continued. "The papers that transferred majority ownership to me, but I don't need it anymore. I have my own pens now." She took it with trembling fingers and followed Marcus inside. An hour later, she left with 2 boxes of personal items and the knowledge that she'd never enter the executive offices again without permission. I returned to the penthouse suite that evening to find a text from Lara. "Divorce papers served. Ethan didn't contest. Clean split. No alimony requested from either side." Good. I didn't want his money. I had something better my own. The next message was from my mother. "Saw the business news about the resort changing hands. My daughter, the owner. Your father would be so proud." My father, who died when I was 12, who'd worked construction until his back gave out, who'd taught me that respect was earned through competence, not inherited through blood. He'd have understood what I'd done here. I walked to the windows facing the slopes. The new lights we'd installed illuminated the runs where night skiers carved through fresh powder. The bar was full of laughter, the restaurant alive with conversation. The resort breathed with new life, freed from the suffocation of Barrett mismanagement. My phone rang. "Marcus. The February booking numbers just came in. We're at 60% capacity. In February, the Barretts never broke 40. Good. Make sure the staff knows their bonus structure kicks in at 50%. Already posted. You should see their faces." After the call, I stood in the silence of my suite in my resort, and thought about Thanksgiving dinners to come. I wouldn't spend them with people who saw me as useful or useless, who measured my worth in signatures and servitude. I'd spend them with people who saw me as myself, complete and undiminished. I picked up my laptop and began reviewing the proposals from Trail and Hearth Outfitters. We'd transform this place into something magnificent, not through ego or extraction, but through competence and care. Every decision would be data-driven, every investment justified, every person valued for their contribution rather than their connection. The Barretts had built their kingdom on the assumption that some people were inherently worth less than others. That assumption had been their downfall. Tomorrow, the new sign would go up, Juniper Ridge Resort, managed by Alder and Slate Hospitality. My company, my rules, my vision. I poured a glass of wine, not the cheap white they'd always served me, but a good red I'd chosen myself, and made one final toast to the falling snow. To the useless ones, I said to the empty room, may we always surprise them. The mountains stood silent and eternal, indifferent to the human dramas at their feet, but I wasn't looking for their approval anymore. I had something better than approval. I had ownership. The path forward stretched clear and unobstructed, each footprint in the snow my own to make. Behind me, the Barrett family empire lay in pieces they'd never reassemble. Ahead, a business built on merit rather than birthright waited to be born. I closed my laptop, turned off the lights, and watched the snow erase every trace of the old regime. By morning, it would all be covered in clean white possibility. The transformation was complete. The useless one had won. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this tale of sweet revenge resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. What would you have done in Natalie's position? Let me know in the comments.